We all want to be happy, to live a life that feels meaningful, but sometimes life feels complicated. We get caught up in wanting things, in worrying, in feeling stressed, and it's easy to lose our way. Today, let's explore some ancient wisdom that can help us navigate these challenges and find more peace. We're going to talk about ideas that might sound a little unfamiliar, but I promise to explain them in a way that makes sense for our everyday lives. This isn't about becoming a monk or living in a cave. It's about finding more peace, right where you are. The core of what we'll discuss comes from the teachings of the Buddha. It's about understanding how our minds work and how to find freedom from suffering. A key idea is that the only thing that truly makes us happy, the thing that sticks with us, is doing good. This isn't about some grand gesture. It's about small acts of kindness and compassion that, believe it or not, follow us in this life and beyond. When we talk about finding peace, we often hear about meditation or sitting in silence. It's true that meditation can be a great tool, but it doesn't have to be complicated. The goal is to quiet the mind, to bring it back to the present moment. Now, when we try to meditate, we are not trying to stop thinking. Instead, we gently bring our attention back to the present. You can focus on your breath, on the feeling of your body. It's like gently guiding a restless child back to their seat. The important thing is that we bring our minds back to ourselves, rather than letting them wander into the past or future, or wherever else they might go. Now, why is this important? Well, it's because our minds often get caught up in things that are not really that important. We cling to our desires, our possessions, our worries, as if they're solid, real things. But the truth is, nothing is permanent. Everything changes. Our feelings, our bodies, everything we own. Think about it. Have you ever been really happy about something only to have that feeling fade? Or felt really bad only to have it change into something else? The feelings of happiness and sadness that we experience are not our possessions. They come and go. The teachings tell us that we can't take anything with us when we die. Not our possessions, not our fame, not even our bodies. So why do we spend so much time chasing things that won't last? It's because we get caught up in the illusions, or Maya, of the world. We crave things that we think will make us happy, but we don't understand that. True happiness comes from letting go, not from grasping. We crave these things that are not actually ours, that do not actually belong to us. It's important to know that our feelings of happiness and suffering are not things that belong to us. They're always shifting and changing. They are not permanent, and this is why clinging to these feelings causes suffering. Even our bodies that we care for so much will eventually decay. When we understand that everything is impermanent, we are less likely to become attached to them. When we try to hold on to things or feelings, they lead to more and more suffering. So what can we do? One key idea is to go against the flow of our minds. Instead of letting our minds be controlled by our desires and emotions, we need to learn how to manage our attention and our emotions. When our mind starts going towards something we want, or starts feeling bad, or starts thinking about the past or the future, we bring our attention back to ourselves. We don't let ourselves drift away with those feelings. This is like swimming upstream. It takes effort, but it gets easier with practice. When you do this enough, your mind will naturally move away from suffering. We also need to remember that we're all in this together. Everyone experiences suffering. Everyone makes mistakes. We all have the potential for good and bad. We're all fellow travelers on this path of life. So, instead of focusing on our own needs and desires, we need to develop compassion for others. We need to let go of selfishness and do what we can to help others. A question we all might ask ourselves is, what should we do with our lives? Should we try to achieve great things or become rich and famous? While these aren't bad things in themselves, the teachings suggest that we should use our time to do what is truly valuable, what is truly meaningful, and that means turning our attention inward. Look at the sunset and see how the light fades, and see how that makes you feel. Are we living as if our lives will end someday? What are we doing with our time? It's not about being productive every minute of every day. It's about using our time to understand ourselves, to cultivate kindness, compassion, and understanding. It's about creating more good in the world. And that can be as simple as being present with those you care about, or doing something that brings you joy, but it should also include acts that help others and that benefit the world. It's about making the best use of this precious life. Now, you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but it's easier said than done. And you'd be right. It's a lifelong journey, not something you can achieve overnight. We all have habits of thinking and feeling that are not very helpful. They can be very strong, and they've been with us for a very long time. Our minds are naturally inclined to go towards what's familiar and easy, even if it's not good for us, like a bird that loves to swoop down and eat something rotten. Our minds are easily pulled to negative thoughts. It takes real effort to change those patterns, to go against that natural inclination. The teaching call this going against the current of the heart, and it can be difficult and tiring. That's where mindfulness comes in, specifically sati, or what some people may call awareness or keeping something in mind. Sati is very important for everything we do. It's like having a little voice reminding us to wake up, to pay attention to what's happening right now. With mindfulness, we can begin to see the feelings and thoughts as they are, without being pulled around by them. With enough practice, the negative or distracting feelings will not pull us around, and we will begin to have more inner peace. This is about understanding how our minds create suffering by clinging to things, getting caught up in anger, frustration, and desire. With sati, we notice our thoughts, our feelings, our cravings, but we don't have to believe them or be pulled around by them. Instead, we can watch them like a passing cloud without getting carried away. It's like learning to not be controlled by your cravings for sugary or greasy food, or like not being controlled by our urges to yell when we're angry. With sati, we can see that our feelings and thoughts are not us. They are just things that appear and then disappear. When we start to develop sati, we start to become the watcher of our mind, rather than someone who's controlled by it. And what we see is that our minds are always changing, always moving, always producing thoughts. When we start to watch our thoughts without judgment, we're practicing vipassana, or insight meditation, the meditation that allows us to develop wisdom. We're observing how our minds create narratives, how they spin stories and create dramas in our minds. Through vipassana, we can see the world as it is and not how we think it is. And this is how we start to experience the peace that lies beyond the chatter of the mind. Now, you might have heard of the concept of anatta, or no self. This can be difficult to understand, but what it means is that there is no permanent, unchanging self, or soul that we can cling to. We're made up of different things that change and pass away, so there is no unchanging, permanent self. The body changes, our feelings change, our thoughts change. And when we understand this, we can begin to let go of the idea that we need to protect or defend ourselves. We can let go of our ideas of who we are and begin to experience the world more directly. It's like looking at a wave on the ocean. The wave has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But it's just water, always changing, always moving, always becoming something else. We too are like waves, just energy that is constantly changing. So, when we start to believe that we are a self, we are attaching ourselves to something that is not real, which causes a lot of unnecessary suffering. So, what about our desires and our cravings? Do we just try to suppress them? Not necessarily. Instead, we can acknowledge them, understand them, see where they come from, and then gently let them go. We do this with our desires for things, but also for our desires to be a certain kind of person. As we start to see that we're not a self, and that things are always changing, the things that we desire start to lose their appeal. When we don't grasp onto our desires so tightly, we can begin to experience more peace and freedom. Now, there's a concept called dukkha, which is often translated as suffering. But it's more than just physical pain. It is the dissatisfaction of life. It includes the subtle unease, the anxiety, the sense of not being quite right that we all experience from time to time. When we do not understand the impermanence of things, we cause ourselves suffering. The teachings say that by observing this suffering, we can learn how to let go of it, and this is how we discover what is good and what is not good for us. The very things that we see as problems can be the things that help us grow if we use them wisely. So, what are the key things to remember? First, be kind to yourself and to others. Second, practice being mindful of your thoughts and feelings. Third, let go of your attachments and remember that everything changes. And fourth, use your life to make a positive difference in the world. These teachings are not about escaping the world. They are about finding peace and happiness within it, even in the midst of challenges. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present, compassionate, and wise. It takes practice, takes patience, but the rewards are immeasurable. Thank you for joining me. I hope this has been helpful.